Greetings, this is Jazz for JazReviews with yet another video review. Emerging from the shadows of stealth games, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. Set in 1975, sometime after the events of Peace Walker, Zeroes is actually the prequel to the full game The Phantom Pain that we'll see sometime in the near future, but of which also merges with a nice selection of side missions to be completed all on the same map. But the game's main mission sets the premise to the storyline we can expect from The Phantom Pain. So from the cassette tapes found at the Cuban prison facility, the backstory relates all to the private army of Big Boss and the new characters involved. And as an infiltration mission, Big Boss, or Snake as we call him, must carry out his mission with the utmost stealth and caution. Now this isn't to say Metal Gear doesn't have its all-out moments of action. You are free to play the game in any way you see fit. A range of stealth aid mechanics are available to ease new players into the game, providing for some very forgiving gameplay. We're talking detection reticules, objective markers, and an extremely generous reflex option to correct your mistake as if it was nothing. But all of these aids can be turned off. Zeroes is very much the game that has stayed true to the MGS series. But let's dig down to business. Enemy AI is pure gold. Here we have what I call the most advanced detection system in any stealth game, or any title at all. Previously, Metal Gear guards were not the sharpest tools in the shed. Yet, Metal Gear has always been ahead of its time in the stealth genre, but now the technology exists to allow for astounding levels of realism. Enemy guards no longer walk strict patrol paths, they act in a way that appears a lot less scripted. Enemies will peer over their shoulders without warning. Enemies will pop out of nowhere on simple whims, and predicting all of this is difficult. And that is good news.
You should move the bodies of enemies somewhere out of sight.
The control scheme is as complicated as ever, which could be seen as a criticism on the behalf of new MGS players, but at the same time a massive relief for fans. The control layouts and core mechanics follow that of Metal Gear Solid 4, but everything's a lot faster and even more fluid. Animations are record-breakingly smooth. No matter the terrain or what Snake's doing at the time, movement flows to the point of perfection. In addition, players will also enjoy the new sprinting and parkour functions, which actually work well in the circumstances. Enemies are intelligent and observant enough to hear as well as see Snake running around like a madman in their base. The enemy's line of sight too is hugely extensive, a feat not to be ignored, working exceptionally well in the daylight hours of side missions. The side missions themselves are entertaining enough, but what we can learn from this is the future structure and level system of Metal Gear. After the main rescue and story mission of Zeroes, the 4 side objectives range from assassination contracts, destroying anti-air guns, or mowing down the entire base by chopper, for instance. These are great experiences in themselves, as nothing is ever quite the same in each playthrough. Stealth can even take a backseat at times, as enemy tanks, anti-air guns and vehicles are not just there for show. Collecting silent headshots with a tranquilizer gun or holding up and interrogating enemies is always fun, but who can resist this kind of firepower? Just for the hell of it, you could also call upon your helicopter gunship at any time for support, or more suitably to rescue the prisoners. However, your chopper is very likely to get shot down the longer it sticks around, especially in the hotter landing zones. You can also customize and import music for your chopper as for when it approaches. One can imagine the inappropriate tunes players will use to shock the entire base with. But all of this sounds great, and it is. But the elephant in the room, of course, points to the game's length. Gamers and journalists alike would like to dub Zeroes as nothing but a paid-for demo, a tech demo, simply a tease of what is to come. And they'd be absolutely right. The average player on normal difficulty with all the assists on should fly through the main mission in just over about an hour. Now we can add the 2 to 3 hours of gameplay invested in side missions, which, to be fair, are designed entirely different ways, all for quality. On the surface, Zeroes will only net 3 to 4 hours of gameplay to the average consumer. Now in replayability terms, MGS5 will become the most expansive and replayable game in the franchise. Zeroes in itself features trial records involving all kinds of challenges such as headshot distances, or fastest times for destroying the wooden watchtowers, which is all player ranked on the online scoreboard. Alongside the hidden cassettes for plot background, players will want to find the awkwardly placed XOF patches, which in turn for collecting them all will unlock one extra bonus mission for each kind of console. So which mission you get is dependable on which brand of console you're playing on, which is utter bullshit, I know. And missions are also graded on a number of factors, so killing and the amount of retries, for instance, on a mission will hurt your score. Unfortunately though, each mission has to be played on normal first to unlock the hard difficulty. So as you rescue the 2 hostages for the main mission, the cutscene rolls for what seems like beautiful, imminent mayhem to be dropped into for an awesome gameplay segment. But no, this doesn't happen for us. The game just ends in all of that action. In the end, a few shock-type moments confirm Kojima's mature direction for the franchise, but such gameplay potential was wasted at the end here. So graphically the game looks amazing on PlayStation 4. I cannot speak for the Xbox One personally, but reports suggest the PS4 looks a little better. But lighting, rendering, texturing, so far as I have seen, is at the very top of its game for next-gen consoles. Now the bulk of my gameplay was done on the PlayStation 3, so for our last set of cherished consoles it does look relatively pretty, but things like pop-in character models seriously take away from the open world of Camp Amiga here. It's almost too much a game for the PS3 to handle as flawlessly as it does on PS4. The seamless transition of cutscene to gameplay works beautifully with what is 60 frames on next-gen consoles now, but likewise frame rate spikes or drops consistently occur on the old hardware. Sadly, no cardboard boxes could be found to be used in the ridiculous ways of past games. The codec is also restricted to a simple press of L2 for swift pieces of dialogue. Hopefully the codec and boxes make return for the phantom pain. Fans almost need that kind of stuff.
What have you got there? A cardboard box? Yeah. Remember that trick?
The main concern and disappointment for any Metal Gear fan boils down to the change of voice actors for Big Boss. Now, I would be in that boat. David Hayter has been replaced with Kiefer Sutherland. I think what Kojima could be doing is differentiating between the 2 characters of Solid Snake and Boss right now, because I predict we will see a Metal Gear Solid 6 game in which Solid Snake and Boss will meet face to face to complete the full circle of the Metal Gear Solid timeline. And it's obvious enough that any dialogue between the pair could not be identically voiced by Hayter. So in the long term, that could be the reasoning why. Sutherland in this installment, however, really isn't given enough lines for us to draw conclusions.
Kept you waiting, huh?
But on the surface, it's obvious in voice acting, Hayter is the more talented by a long shot. I don't expect any newcomers to the series to know why MGS has these voice work predicaments. And I don't blame you. You need to have been there for Metal Gear Solid 3.
I think it will be strange for people, and certainly be strange for me. Unfortunately, I won't be playing it, so...
This prologue is a cash grab directed at the MGS fanbase, and people will happily pick it up for the retail price of $30 next gen, or slightly less for PS3 and Xbox 360. But let me fill you in on something. Ever since 1998, I have always been a massive Metal Gear Solid fan. It goes further than that. Through the thousands of titles I've seen in the industry, the MGS franchise have given me my favorite video games of all time. These are my games. But in scoring this title, I look upon value for money versus the quality of gameplay. Based on gameplay alone, irrespective of price, this is 10 out of 10 development right here, which makes me very happy in the anticipation of the Phantom Pain. At the same time, when it falls down to the bottom line, I issue Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, a 6.5 out of 10. That is my score for a title that you get out for what you put in. A game which is more valuable when replayability factors are taken into account. But ultimately, the prologue makes for poor business practice for these kinds of prices. My honest advice is to wait for a price reduction for what is a glorified demo of what is to come. This has been Jazz for JazReviews. I'd definitely be interested to see the comments and engage in all of the discussion for this video. Personally, I'll maybe reach 15 hours of gameplay time for Ground Zeroes in the next week or so, but that is not the typical of any consumer with just this level and side missions. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future reviews and videos. See ya.